ready, Vanessa?
I was born ready.
Let's do this. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Soul Sisters. You're listening to 90.4 Oman FM. This is one soul sister, Mayya Seyyida.
And the other soul sisters, Vanessa, Mehri.
Thank you so much for joining us. Today's topic is one that Vanessa was very passionate about. And I have to be honest, when you suggested it, I thought, do people really want to know about budgeting? But I guess we do. And Vanessa, why did you feel so strongly about this to begin with?
Because it's something that at a point in life I also struggled with, and I had to learn a lot of hard lessons along the way. And if I have that problem, I'm pretty sure somebody else does.
It's true. Actually, we all do. Well, if you don't have a budgeting problem, then you're one of the lucky ones. And I applaud you and salute you. And please share your knowledge with anyone who is willing to listen to you, because this is something so critical and affects your day-to-day life, your future, your kids' life. And you might not know you have a problem, but if you're ordering too much on Talabat or other food apps, maybe you have a problem.
Specifically one person in mind.
No, but seriously, if most of your income, if you have no money left over, okay, which is not so bad if you're doing like a zero budget thing, but if you don't know where that money has gone, what you've spent it on, and you don't even wait until the end of the month and you're suddenly thinking, I don't know where the money is.
We have a problem.
We have a problem. But luckily, the two guests that we have in the studio with us are just what you need.
Matt and Rebecca Olson. And coincidentally, you're the super team from the Olson library, which makes this even better.
That's us.
Thank you. Yeah, it's very good to be here. Thank you for having us.
Yes,
and the studio is amazing. So yeah, it's a nice experience to be here.
Yes, it's pretty cool. So Matt, how did you start your journey with finance? How did you become a finance guru?
Okay, well, thank you. I mean, I wouldn't call myself a guru, but I do appreciate that. I was just a bit of backstory about myself. I'm the youngest of 9 children. Both of my parents died when I was quite young. And my older sister ended up raising me. She always worked low-paying service jobs, kind of just to pay the bills. And I ended up putting myself through college. Unfortunately, I never had anyone really teach me about finances. So this word budget, I did not even know the word budget. Until maybe I went to college and then I learned the word. But yeah, so I put myself through school, made many unwise choices, much pain and suffering, and realized about $100,000 in debt later that I should probably change some things that I was doing in my life, where I was letting my money just disappear to. And that's kind of what got me started with saying, I don't want this future for the rest of my life. I would like to change something and kind of better the position that I'm in. So it's a bit of my backstory. I think Rebecca's story is a little different. She comes from, do you want to talk or do you want me to?
Sure.
Okay.
I guess I'm not a budgeting pro. I came to join Matt and talk about buying things online and how I like to save money for our small family. But I was raised so differently because I was one of 7. My family was very thrifty. And so from a very young age, we were taught how to save, how to look for the deals, what we needed to buy and not buy. And it wasn't perfect, but I would say I remember being a child and garage sailing and looking for used stuff. In the US, we have a thing called Goodwill, secondhand products and stuff. And I would shop there. And so it was always kind of in my mind how to save. Whereas I got to introduce my husband to all of that once we got married.
That's true.
But looking back now, isn't it a skill you find that helped you in life?
I think it's a huge skill. The only problem is it's a bit of a rush. When you do like to find a deal, or you do like to, it actually is the opposite. It's not really about budgeting at all, because some people, they might get a good deal, but they still buy too much,
Yes.
So I do enjoy that. So I think I've helped Matt find better prices or hold off until the right price comes along. But he's helped me kind of see, well, you don't have to buy that just because it's a good deal. So yeah, we both have skills that we bring to our
So
to our
beautiful.
family.
You just complement each other. We try.
We've learned.
Yeah.
I think we've learned a lot from each other. So Rebecca, I think, being more the natural saver and very wise in any of the purchases that she makes. Me in my past, just buying whatever I could and letting it deteriorate and basically toss away. So so it's good to.
Did you feel because of your childhood and your past that you deserved to make all these purchases? Was that what you were telling yourself?
Yeah, I mean, it could have been. There was probably some things going on subconsciously. I mean, the social circles I was a part of, I mean, there was that pressure, I think. I mean, I was living in a big city. I was living in the city of Boston in the U.S. And I mean, my friends were, out going to restaurants, eating out a lot.
Celtics games.
Yeah, it's high rent costs. Yeah, going Celtics games and other sporting events that really I should not have afforded. I should not have been going to at that time. So the social pressure was there, and maybe there was a part of it that was saying, yeah, I deserve this. Like, I want a life that I haven't had because I was raised in such a poor environment. I mean, I was raised in a room in a house not bigger than this studio, actually, with
9 kids.
Yeah, with 8 brothers and sisters, and so I think you're right. It could have been that.
I feel like a lot of times, we make poor decisions based on either we're trying to keep up with the Joneses. That means you're trying to keep up with your neighbor who has a lot and probably is earning a lot more, or you tell yourself you deserve it. And while it is true we do deserve to treat ourselves once in a while, it can get out of hand pretty quickly.
Right.
Yeah. So my question for you today, I'd like to start with, what are 3 main budget killers? So when somebody gets the salary, right, what are the 3 main areas people lose a lot of money in?
Yeah. I mean, I've spoken with a lot of my friends, both in the U.S. and here in Oman. So I've spoken with people, and I've helped many people now come out of debt. And in looking at how they spend money and just knowing myself as well, the main things are that I see are car. So a lot of people just have a car that's too big for them, too new for them, too fat. They should probably get a different car payment, or just get something that's cheaper and pay cash so that they don't have that recurring monthly payment. I have one friend here who is spending up to 75% of his monthly salary on his car payment.
Oh wow.
And so I sat down and looked at his budget with him at one point. This is about 8 years ago. And I said, is there anything on here that you can see that's kind of a problem? And he said, he was like, I'm not sure. And I said, maybe the car. He's like, yeah, maybe the car. Okay, maybe the car. And his situation was interesting. He ended up selling that one and getting something, paying cash about 3-4 months later, and doing something that was more, cost effective for him and better for his family. He had a young kid at the time as well.
Okay.
So yeah, cars are definitely number 1, I think. Number 2 would be just eating out or restaurants. I heard a famous quote from a financial guru, like a real financial guru in the U.S., someone way beyond
A real
one. There's this guy, which you may know him. His name is Dave Ramsey.
Oh yes, I love him. I love.
So he said, if you're trying to get out of debt, you should not be seen in a restaurant unless you're working in the kitchen. If you're waiting tables in the restaurant. So I mean, it's maybe a bit extreme, but I think the adage or the quote is wise, where he says you should be careful. You can spend more money than you ought to, just by eating out or doing social events or things like that are out. So he said always limit that.
And even socially, throwing barbecues and having your friends over can rack up pretty quickly, especially if you're buying the steaks.
Yeah.
They're not cheap, so maybe have less people or have a potluck. I think if more people adopted the potluck kind of concept where everybody brings something and have that communal kind of meal gathering, I think that would make a difference.
Yeah,
So
that's a great idea.
But depending what you bring, means you have to make it yourself, or don't go buying something because then you defeat the purpose.
This is true.
No?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Defeat the purpose.
This is true. I wish a lot more, back in the day, women would come together. And I don't mean to sound like to favor one side, just the women, but they would come together and shop. May and I actually used to go to the market and buy our stuff,
vegetable market.
Buy fruits and vegetable wholesale, and then split it. You know, and
that's smart.
we got some good deals on strawberries. I will never forget.
Actually do it again.
Yeah, we need to. We stopped because of COVID, for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
And then we had we both had kids, new babies. So anyway, women used to go and mass buy and then go to a kitchen together. You know, they would rotate and cook meals. And then everybody's taking X amount of meals with them, and they're freezer meals. Now, Rebecca, this is where I'm going to bring you in. A lot of people have a taboo around freezer meals. They say, and you'll get people here saying, freezer meals are not good for you. They're bad for your health. You shouldn't do them. But they really help the budget stretch. Right?
And you're talking about when you kind of make everything in one day and then you have it for the next 2 weeks.
So you've got your crock pot and you've mass cooked, you know, like a chili recipe or even bolognese, you know, which is mincemeat for those who don't know, in a tomato sauce. And you mass cook this or batch cook and you put in the freezer. You know, when you have those, I like this because they're good for those moments of I really don't feel like cooking, I'm not in the mood. Pull it out of the freezer. But I've talked to people here and they say freezer meals are not good. What do you feel about that?
Are they worried that they just taste worse or that they like lose nutrients or something?
Both, actually.
Because I think, I've heard that like canned vegetables, like if you have to choose, you're not going to get fresh vegetables. And if you choose frozen is much better.
No, frozen is better, yes. Yes.
And I think you don't lose any nutrients. Now, some things definitely adapt better to being frozen. Like you just mentioned some foods that would work, right? And some are disgusting if you freeze them.
Potatoes.
It depends on what you make. But I think it's a great way, especially large families, tired moms, you know, and people who have to pack for the work week. Also for health. It's portion control. Like a lot of people freeze them in these small containers. It's an excellent way to save. Because if you don't have some freezer meals in there and you do get in that zone where you're like, I'm not cooking. Taliban is so easy.
Yes.
And then you think, I'll get a gem. You only saved 3 reals of those gems. You still got the delivery and everything. But if you had some freezer meals, I'm with you. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
I think it's more of a culture thing as well. I think we are not taught about money, similar to, you know, for different reasons, though it's just not part of our culture. Families don't sit down with their children, talk about money, know about cooking is healthier. It's just people just see cooking as a chore. And it's just like fast food, like you're hungry, this is just eat. So they're not thinking of the nutrients. I mean, I'm just talking, I don't know, from the Omani kind of perspective. Not to say... Even thinking of Ramadan, where it's supposed to be, you know, you have 1 meal a day, or maybe say 2 if you consider the early morning breakfast. But the amount of food people buy, the amount of money spent, I'm thinking this is a month of fasting, which is budget friendly in my opinion, but it's a month of feasting. So it's the whole habit of money management. And this is something I wish they would teach in schools.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
And having said that, I think we should take a short break and we'll be right back after this. Welcome back. You're listening to Soul Sisters on Oman 90.4 FM. Vanessa with me in the studio along with the Olsons, and we're talking about budget. So we left off saying, well, I said that this topic of money management should be taught to our kids, because I believe it's a habit that every one of us needs, because it's just part of our lives. Yeah. So if anyone's listening in the educational system, please, let our kids on these gems that they need in their life. And speaking of Dave Ramsey, if anyone's out there, any parents listening, there are books. Dave Ramsey, I bought those books for my children.
Oh, well done. Yeah, we have them too.
Yes, and I started them at the ages of, I can't remember, when they were able to read and understand numbers. We did the activity book, we did the whole thing. And so they now know you have to save. And then, first give to charity, then save, and then spend.
Yes. Yeah. With the envelopes,
awesome.
Right?
Yes, the envelope, cash envelope.
Yeah. So I'm just going to throw in another tip for the parents out there. What I did with my kids is we play cash flow. I don't know if anybody's heard of cash flow. So the authors of Rich Dad, Poor Dad came up with a game. And it teaches kids about passive income and how to manage your money. It's an actual game.
And it's an app available?
You can play it online. We got the board game and we love it. Now he's now 7, but he was playing, he's been playing for a while, and he's so savvy now because of it, and he'll go like, oh, owning an apartment is passive income, and he's constantly, so it really worked to educate them.
So since we're talking about budget, anyone listening who has never budgeted in their life and have no idea what we're talking about, can you just give us a bit of a info on what is budget, simplify it, and why is it important?
Sure. So a budget essentially is just, normally it's done on either a monthly or an annual basis. You just write down normally any money that you make, any revenue, cash in, your salary, whatever it is, either passive or active income. You write it down, and then you just write all of your monthly or annual expenses below that, and you just minus the one from the other. And Dave Ramsey has something that he calls a zero balance budget, which basically he just says every real or every dollar, every unit of currency that you have, it should go somewhere. And part of that should be, you're right, Mayya, it should be for giving or for savings, and yet part of that as well should just be for the expenses, the expenditures that you need for your life, whether it's car, fuel, gasoline, rent, utilities, phone bill, that type of thing. But it's knowing where your money goes, and that's the purpose of a budget. Some people get into a situation where, like you mentioned at the beginning of the show, they get to the mid part of the month or the 20th of the month, 23rd of the month, and they have no more left over. And a budget is trying to get you to a point where you don't have to face that wall, where you don't have to face. And let's be honest, my major reason for appreciating a budget is peace of mind, and I think it should be for the listeners as well. Like if you have peace in your heart and peace in your mind, you can just do so much more. You can live so much better. You can you can do more with your life. If you're full of stress and you're not sure where the money's going to come from, how you're going to make it, how will the next meal happen, it's just a difficult situation to be in.
So before we get to that point, we talked about the cars, and we talked about food, which is where money goes. So there was a third one.
I would say it's number 3, and if I could say a fourth one, but the third one, in my opinion, it's just a catch-all category of people. They spend money and they don't know where it goes. So you would call it kind of a discretionary fund. But I think the point is that most people that I see, even when they write down their expenses, I ask them, I say, is it true where you have a certain amount left over each month? And they say no. And I said, well, where else is it going, And then it takes them, some back and forth and some digging to find that it's actually going somewhere else, whether it's, movies out or subscriptions like Netflix or Amazon Prime or something. There's a large amount of usually availability in people's spending that they kind of cannot quantify easily. And maybe it's gifts, like birthday gifts, or something else. Maybe it's some of the annual items like insurance, where you only pay it once a year, so you forget about it for the other 11 months, but then the 12th month comes around and you have to pay certain items. So it's those types of items have a big impact on the budget. And then I think the fourth thing I would just say is travel. Whether that's leaving the country or driving to Dubai or somewhere like that money does add up. And again, normally if people take a weekend trip or a 1 week trip, they don't actually track all of it. Maybe they think that they spent 200 real. It could have been 500, could have been 600, and it's not easily quantifiable when they're on a vacation.
I think you don't want to think about what you're spending on vacation, right? You're like, let me just piece out of everything right now and not. One other thing I just wanted to add is about rent. I think Matt and I have talked about how much of our monthly salary combined should be spent on our rent. And we keep quoting Dave Ramsey, but I think he's saying 25% max. Yeah,
he says, not more than 25% of your net take-home pay. So whatever your salary is that hits your bank, you shouldn't be spending more than that on your house or rent and utilities, or if you purchase, then for your mortgage payment. It should not be more than that. That way, because some people are what you call, they're maybe rich, but they're called house poor, and so it just means that their house that they have is probably too big for them at this stage in their life. Maybe they need to wait 3 more years or 5 more years, and then they can supersize it, to use an adage, or then they can go up a little bit, but they need to be patient to get to that point, I think.
Which
sometimes.
I don't think many people have. Many people want, I want it, and I make enough money. So, and there's the other thing, what people perceptions of how I should be living my life. I don't know if it's the same in the West, but here it's like, if you have a certain position, like in a company, then they kind of know how much you have, then you should be living this way and not the other way. So if somebody were to come and say, well, not that they should,
come to your house,
other people, like, why are you doing this? And why you can afford to do this? Well, maybe I have other priorities that you don't know about.
That's right.
So people, I think there's a lot of pressure on what other people would think about how I live my life if I make wiser choices money-wise.
So what would you guys say to that? Because pressure is a big reason for people losing a lot of money out there. If I have a guest coming over to my house, what are they going to think about my house? I don't have the latest couch.
This is me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
On the one hand, if you have people in your life who will not like you or will think less of you because you don't have the right couch, do you really want those people? Sometimes if it's family, it's different, but like, do you really want those friends judging you? But on the other hand, Matt, I think you spoke about this earlier, just your social circle does make or break sometimes your budget. Because some people go camping every weekend and it just costs like some mishkak and some gas money up the mountain. But some people want to go do brunch every weekend, or they want to go golfing and then they want to go do this. And that's where I think it's harder than just people looking at your car, looking at your furnishings. The harder part is when they want to hang out. It can be very difficult to say no, or very awkward for some people.
Yeah, and I think, personally, I think you're right, Becca. I would caveat some of this conversation with some of our listeners, probably they're okay in some of these categories, but I think that who you are if you're in a situation where you know if it's you, where you need to be more careful, you need to be more wise, you need to learn to say no. If you're not in that situation, alhamdulillah, great. That's good for you, and be proud of what you're spending and the people, the social circles that you have. You should, live well, live generously, give to others and help. But if you know that it's you, it's just something within you will be saying, should I be doing this now? Is there a way that I can use my resources better? How can I change?
That little voice.
The little voice.
And I think one should listen to that voice and be honest with yourself. Like, if you have a problem, you have a problem. It's not too late. There are people like you out there and so many others who are willing to help. Like, what happens is, if somebody says they have a problem, it's like, how can you have a problem? What do you mean you don't know how to budget? And all of that, making that person feel bad for actually speaking up. So speak up, or say, yes, I do have a problem, I need help. So if somebody is in that situation, where can they go, or who can they speak to?
Everyone's looking to me. So you can Google a lot online. You can find out a lot online.
Dave Ramsey is really, truly helpful. His videos are helpful. But Matt does consult for free.
I do. Yeah, and I'm happy to do more. So if there are listeners, maybe they can reach out to you ladies and then just let me know. I'm happy to spend an hour, look at just someone's personal finance. It's on a very confidential basis, obviously, and it's free still at this point, if I have the time to do it. But I do enjoy doing that. I think sometimes people just need someone to listen, and then they need like a sounding board where they can bounce off like the ideas of where they can kind of see, like hold a mirror up and say, okay, here's where I want to be and here's what I see myself doing. And in terms of finances, either like family finances or whatever. And so they need people just to talk to, and I enjoy that sort of thing.
I think it's always good to hear other people's success stories, right? Like, I think when people say, this was my last payment on my school loan, like Americans, we have these huge school loans till we're like in our 50s. People are still paying them back. But when someone says, I just had my first month where I got to save something, and I wasn't... It just brings hope to other people. So sometimes they just need someone to listen and say, you're actually really close, and this happened to me. So But yeah, Matt does have a really sad Instagram page called, what is it called?
It's called
Olson Family Consulting, Olson Financial Consulting.
Just so Rebecca doesn't get a bad reputation for that, I will call it very sad. It's like the worst Instagram I've ever seen. It's called Olson Financial Consulting. It has like 5 posts from 3 years ago.
That's why he said, if anyone wants to reach out to me, please inform the ladies.
We aren't here to promote a business. It's a free thing, but people can't find you that way. This way they won't get a bunch of emails. If anyone wants... That's true. He might not be the best Instagram consultant, but he's a very good budgeting consultant, and you can reach him that way.
So it's Olson, Olson Financial Consulting. So you could send a DM there, a message, and I could get back to you.
You check it regularly. Okay, so Mayya had a question.
I have a question, but I'm wondering, maybe I can ask it after the break. It's about cash versus card. Like, yeah.
That's a good question.
Okay.
All right.
So, be right back. Welcome back to Arman FM. You're listening to Soul Sisters. Vanessa with me in the studio. As always, she's my soul sister, so can't be doing this without her. And with us in the studio are Matt and Rebecca Olson, and we're talking about budgeting. So much fun. I hope you guys are learning, because I am. And I ended up before the break, I just wanted to ask you, Matt, any time I read about starting over a budget, first of all, we were told to track our budget. And then the second tip we're given is that we have to pay everything in cash. And Dave Ramsey says that too. He goes to the point, he really, cuts off his debit cards and credit cards. So what are your thoughts? Are those tips applicable here?
I think that there are situations where that should happen. I wouldn't say it's easy. I think that in Oman, most things, in a lot of ways, there are many cashless transactions. It's required that, using a Visa or using a debit card or credit card is at every, gas stop, every store, every kiosk. Personally, I don't. When I speak with people about budgeting, it's more on a high level, like kind of a more top-down approach, so that they can, an eagle eye approach where they can see what it is they're doing and kind of fine-tune what it is they're doing. But I agree with you. I think that if you can, take the cash and just make sure that this is the cash you're going to spend this month as, say, discretionary or fun money or whatever you want to call it. It's not a bad idea. It's a good idea. So if it's 50 riyals or 150 riyals or whatever, and you say, okay, for the month of November, I'm only going to spend 100 riyals or something, and I'm not going to go over this. And once the cash runs out, you stop kind of that
whatever you had allocated.
Yeah. But I think in terms of the practicality, most expenses these days are just done on cards, and actually it can be. I'm going to get myself into trouble here, but it can be smart to get like a 1% cash back or a 2% cash back on some of these cards. But that is my advice, not Dave Ramsey's advice. And if you ever struggle with credit card debt, be very careful. And you should not. You shouldn't play with it if you haven't controlled that aspect of your spending, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I am allergic to. I have a credit card.
Okay.
I never use it because I'm just so scared of the credit card.
I want those points. I want the cash back when Matt doesn't use our credit card that we got, for lounge access and for points.
Yeah.
Why would you make a purchase and not put it on the credit card? But Matt, I have a question then.
Sure.
If you have 3 months in a row where you've said, this is my fun money this month, this is my discretionary, I'm going to spend however many riyals this month only on things I don't need, I just want them. And you go over every month. Should someone cut up their credit cards?
Possibly. Yeah, possibly. If you're, if like I said earlier, if it's just you know that you cannot control it, or you're at a situation where you're making kind of the same mistake the second month in a row, or a third month in a row, that should be a sign to say, all right, let's do it. Yeah, and that's why Dave Ramsey just says, go with cash. If it's in your pocket and you have the cash to do it, you can do it. But otherwise, we get into these situations, I think, with cards where, and especially you go to some of the malls now, and there's no payments for 12 months, there's no payments for 6 months, and then what happens later is when you have to pay that, you've made a few other purchases, and all of a sudden you don't have enough on a monthly basis to pay for those, and that's one of the problem areas you can get into. So you have to be careful, you have to be wise, you have to be shrewd, and know, what's there, what you're able to do, and then learn to tell yourself no, or be able to tell yourself no in some of those situations where you might want something, but you really should not pursue it at that point.
To be disciplined.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is something I think.
Yeah. There's a term, delayed gratification, that a lot of people may know. It's just basically saying, if you can wait, and this is maybe one of Rebecca's tips. Becca has
my tips.
Becca has some amazing tips.
If you want to buy something and you didn't know you needed that thing until today, you're like, but now I do, it's on sale or something. Put it on a list, on a Google Doc or on your notes on your phone. Wait 2 weeks. And then if you still want it in 2 weeks, then maybe you can buy it.
Will it still be on sale?
That's the thing. So I told my sister, and she's like, but usually I want it because it's on sale.
Yeah.
Well, you shouldn't buy something just because it's on sale. It's a really good way to spend less.
That's what I do.
So now that you started with one of these tips, are there any more that you'd like to share with us?
Yes.
Now that I said don't buy things just because they're on sale, I have to say that in one of my tips you should. When it comes to grocery shopping in Oman, it's different than we have in the US. You talked earlier about wholesale. We have these big stores in the US where not at the market and not with your friends for fruit, but with everything. If you buy more, it's somehow a better price.
Like Costco?
Yeah. It's not really a thing here. The way I save money here is to shop online. And that is for 2 reasons. When you go to the frozen section of any of these stores, you're like, how much are these French fries or these popsicles? I can't tell which price goes with which thing, right? You all know they have the little white stickers in the back, or if you're a Lulu, they're yellow, and you're thinking, are these French fries 6 reals or 600 pesos? I don't know. So if you're online, you can see the prices, and that's actually really important. Yeah. The other thing is you can sort by discount. So there's something to be said for cooking what's in season. So you wanted to make this thing with celery, but for whatever reason this month, because of the global logistics crisis, celery is now 7 reals for a tiny little stock. So you think, I'm not going to make what I was going to make. I'm going to make this other interesting vegetable I've never seen before. But also, the other day I was searching by discount. I can see everything at Lulu that's 85% off. If anything's 85% off, I could, which is great, because some stores always say up to 90% off. I walk in and I'll go, what is 90% off? Yes. And they'll go, no, ma'am, finished. But online, you can truly tell what is on sale. So
I actually flip. I flip through the different shopping apps, and I'm like, right, I need this. And if I feel like one place is highly overpriced, I'm like, right, Carrefour. That's the price. Okay, this one, and then I go for it. And that's where I'm shopping, wherever the price is lower on that thing. Like, for example, apples. The kids love these little apples. I don't know what they're called. They're from New Zealand.
Oh, yeah.
They come in. Yeah, there's no apples. They're the small apples. They come in a sort of plastic tube.
I thought they were called cuties.
Maybe, I don't know.
I don't know if they're called.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Anyway, one place wanted almost 3 real. I was like, we're not having apples today.
See?
But they're like, well, we really like them. So I found them for 1.9 somewhere else.
Look at you.
I'm not saying where, but you can find it. Just research the apps.
But also that's the teaching moment for the kids.
I showed them, yeah. So I showed them, and I'm like, okay, you can have it. So 1.9 is still overpriced in my opinion for 5-6 apples, but it's okay. The kids ate the fruit.
Yeah.
So that's what I usually do. I spend a lot of time doing that.
You're a good mom. One of my other points is that kids cost a lot of money, and sometimes they think that they need things, and then you can think they need them. But actually, it's really good for our kids. Not in this case. Not if it's healthy apples.
That's different.
But in general, it's good to not always let our kids have things right away either.
Yes.
I've been reading a book about working with your own children on things, and it says that you can write things down. So you get to the store and they're like, I need this Nerf gun, and it's like, they don't need that Nerf gun. You can like, I'll write that down and I'll have it later for next time we need to buy a gift.
Yeah.
And some kids are actually fine with that. It's much better than just handing it to them. But yeah, I have a few more tips.
Rebecca always gives me that kind of advice. I'll pass the Rado store in the mall. I'll be like, oh, these, Mont Blanc. I'll pass Mont Blanc in the mall. I'll be like, Rebecca, one of these watches? No. Well, we'll write it down. Maybe later. Okay. Sure.
So she's using it on you.
I'll write that down, man.
She makes me write it down. I have a growing list.
My husband's going to know my secret now.
It's funny. Some things should be special, right? Like even foods. Sometimes we're adults now, you can kind of, when people say, what do you want for Christmas? For us Americans, well, I can buy a lot of the small things that I would want you to buy me. I can now buy. Thank God. I can. So, but it's good to save some things as special, even foods. I think It's what makes them special. We don't have pumpkin pie all year round.
I'd like an uni grill, I'm just saying.
Everything has to be about food.
I'll write that down, Vanessa. I'm writing it right here. I'll put it in my phone.
I'll have a gift registry open. But yeah, so, but also that, I guess, like you could tell your friends if anybody's asking, what do you want for your birthday? I was like, why don't you guys collectively? I would like this. It's very expensive. You can do it collectively. Yeah. If you have good friends, they're cool with that. You know,
that's a great
idea. Rather than junk you didn't really want.
Exactly. Yeah, which happens a lot, doesn't it?
Speaking of junk you don't want, here's one of my other pro tips: have a garage sale. Not even for the money that you will get, but because it shows you that you don't need to buy anything ever again. Oh, we had the most embarrassing, like, we did it to support our little library, right?
Yeah.
We're like, all proceeds will go to the library. And this was garbage we were just going to donate. But we were like, you know what? Sometimes when you donate, actually things do go in the landfill. Some of it goes to people in need. Some of it will go to a landfill. And I just said, let's just see if anyone wants it. And we made a lot of money at that garage sale. But that's not the point. The point was we thought this was humiliating and a ton of work. And we never want to buy stuff like this again. I don't even care if it's free. If something free comes in my house, I should get rid of something. So you don't have so much stuff.
So I, just to jump on that again, and Mayya knows this. So what I do at home is I have this strict rule. If you want something, you need to get rid of something.
I like it.
Right? So if we want a piece of furniture, well, what's going to be sold? And I go on the Facebook groups and I'm very active on them, and I'll get rid of the stuff I don't need. Stuff for the baby, like you said, kids are so expensive. So if you've got something you've used for a few months, I have my best friend has a baby, so and her daughter is a few months younger than mine, so we usually just share it amongst each other. But babies are really expensive, and so are the stuff for babies. Sell that, use that cash to get whatever your child needs now for the age they're at, and keep that rotating. You know, that really helps stretch things. So that's one thing I do.
But see, again, you're speaking of Western. This doesn't happen much in Oman. So this is something that maybe...
Does it need to?
Yes, I think it does. There's no shame.
There's no shame.
Think within us, but within the Arab community, we think, how can I use something used?
Especially for kids, actually.
Yeah. There is that, it's kind of seen as, dare I say, taboo, that I am like, secondhand cars is okay, but other than that, like clothes, books I think as well is okay, but other than that, I think people don't go down that route.
I think if people change their mindset and also realize that we're a consumerist society and it's not good for the environment as well. If people change their thinking and think, you know what, if we're doing this, we are helping, you know, there's less mass production that happens hopefully in the end as a domino effect of it. If people change that thinking and adopt that instead, I think they can put that at the back of their minds, and it's easier to make those.
Do you agree with that, Matt? Do you think it is a changing, like a habit changing, mindset change in order for them to do that?
I mean, yes, I agree. I mean, I think that, again, like I mentioned earlier, like people who are in difficult situations know the changes that they should make. But I think that Vanessa's making a good point when she's saying, and Becca as well, when you're saying, you know, do we really want to consume as much as we consume as a people? And maybe it needs to be a little bit less in terms of what's produced, what's purchased, what's used, and then just forgotten about. So if like I have something that, if I have something that is, you know, worth 100 riyals and I've used it for 1 year and I don't need it anymore and it has a useful life of 8 years, I should pass it on and try to let someone else have the benefit of using whatever that thing is. I don't know, it's whatever it is, TV or some, I don't know, I'm not sure what it might be, but you can pass on things to others, either sell them or give them. So.
Becca, I'm wondering, do you have a tip for somebody who, you know, before buying something, is there some sort of tip you have that, do we really need that?
That's a really good question. It's sort of like on Instagram, is it helpful? Is it kind? Is it, you know? Yeah. There's a very good documentary, maybe you've already seen it, on Netflix. It's called The True Cost. And it's about fast fashion. And they make a point that when we were kids, I think we're all around the same-ish age. When we were young, there were 2 fashion seasons. There was the fall fashion back to school, and then there was like spring, summer in the US. But even worldwide, there was kind of like, you buy maybe Eid clothes or a special thing. But now the large mega stores worldwide are bringing out a new line every single week. That they've worked hard to convince us that clothes are a consumable item, whereas they used to be considered non-consumable. Like, you have mustard over here, that's a consumable item, and then you have you know,
suit jacket.
A suit jacket. But now when you see a shirt that's 1.9 reals, you might think, I'm not even going to try that on. It will probably fit. If it doesn't fit, I can give it to my friend, or like I'll wear it once and it'll be worth 1.9 reals. Yeah. So it's not just you need it, but it's like we were talking about earlier. Could you ask, is this something that I need? Is it going to harm the environment? Because that video or the documentary, The True Cost, really talks about the environmental impact. Yep. So I think just asking, what's the impact on the world going to be if I buy this thing? Okay. Who made it? That was my last question. In which country did they make it? That
thinking of the humanity. And just before we wrap up, I'd like to ask Matt, what are 5 changes one can implement today to turn their financial struggles around?
Oh boy, I don't know if I will have all 5. I mean, I think some of the big, in my experience and in working with people and talking with them through their finances, the major things I think that people need to do, like we talked about credit cards. So I guess I would just say this is number 1. If you are in credit card debt or you have an issue with spending too much on credit cards, just stop, cut it up, or, put it away for a while. Don't use it. But I think number 2, like we talked about, is you have to know like what you're facing. And so a lot of people don't want to do this when they're in debt or in a bad situation. And so if you write down your current situation, whether you have loans of 10,000 real or whatever it is, and you have you make an income of whatever the amount is, if you write everything down and then you put your monthly expenses and you just write it all down and you look at it and then you get some advice and talk to somebody else about it, it's mind-boggling how much that in and of itself will help you. And so some people don't actually make it to that step where they might just have a recurring financial situation or an issue in their life, but they don't take time to write it down and see actually to face it. So you have to kind of face that fear or face that situation. I would say that you should then, number 3, write your goals. So is your goal to get out of debt? Is it to live more generously? Is it to become more healthy? A lot of these things you can't do if your finances are just keeping you down. You cannot, like we talked earlier about food, you can't buy the right food for you and your family if you don't have the means to do so. You can't give generously to other people if you have bills you have to pay and you have no money left over. So it's just things like that where you have to write down your goals. And I think I've heard different quotes and stats about this, but I've heard that people achieve their goals like 42% of the time more if they just write them down, or something like that, or 82% of the time more. I don't know what the figure is, but the point is write down your goals, and then it will help you to achieve them. And then I think that's number 4 and 5. Do I have time for
I can help you with number 4.
Yeah. Go ahead, Rebecca.
Find cheaper or free ways to do the things that you want to do. So you could go to one of Oman's many parks instead of taking your kids to one of these huge, I'm excited for Snow Oman. My kids have branded it Snowman, and it's not even open yet, but they've changed the name. Anyway, I'm excited for it, but that's like a once in a while thing. And if we can bring our kids to Currum Natural Park, that place is amazing, right? So just finding, free. I think ways to save your own money is for me would be number 4.
Picnics are trendy.
It's not like all fun is over. Picnics are trendy.
Yeah,
you don't have to just like we're on a budget now, kids. We can do nothing.
Yeah,
find new fun things to do.
Yeah, exactly. And then I don't know, probably number 5, let's just say, if I can, number 5 and 6, I would say people should have an emergency fund. They should just put some money to the side and kind of forget about it. It should be just in case like your car breaks, you need new tires urgently. I don't know, something, you have to fly somewhere urgently for a family reason. You should just have some money sitting there that's always just there.
What's a decent amount to have?
Normally you should have 3 to 6 months worth of your living expenses is a decent amount. So whatever your expenses are for 1 month, multiply it by 3. And God forbid, or if something does happen with like a work situation, if you lose a job, then you'll have that fall back there. But then I think number 6, if I can say, would be
keep them coming.
I put in number 4.
No, keep them coming.
I think number 6 is just kind of when I look at people who are in debt, like sometimes they hit like a big risk situation. So maybe it's a health situation or a car insurance situation. I don't know if it's as much of an issue in Oman itself, but worldwide, you need to do the most that you can to avoid those big risk areas. So whether it's a health insurance situation or car insurance, just the point is that you should mitigate some of those risks, so that way it's more controlled on the big ticket items that might come up. So you
Don't
know
be
that,
reactive.
Yeah. So you don't exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we can. I'd love to hear more about this.
I feel like we need to bring the Olsons. I feel like you guys need to come back into the studio.
Thank you.
If you guys have any questions you'd like us to ask, or you feel like we should ask,
let us know
in the comment section.
So we can bring them back again. We'd love to have you in the studio again.
Yeah, I feel like there's so much untouched, or has
gems.
So much untouched gems that you guys have.
Sadly, this is all we have time for. It was really lovely having you in the studio with us and sharing your knowledge and tips. Becca, thank you so much for those. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you guys again, and tuning into Oman FM. See you next week.
Query.